Hi, I'm Heavy D, and I was framed for ruining the Freedom 500. Nah, that's not true. I did ruin it. I may have ruined the race, but believe it or not, it wasn't on purpose. And I want to tell my story just so that everybody understands that I'm not a complete and total, just kind of an asshole. You guys ready for this? So it all started when our buddy CleetusMcfarland invited Diesel Dave and I down to Florida to race in the Freedom 500, which is a Crown Vic race, which if you're not familiar with the Freedom 500, basically a 100-lap race around Cleetus's Freedom Factory track down in Florida in old Crown Vic police cars. Now here's the deal. You get 20 Crown Vic police cars on a racetrack filled with some of the most talented, aggressive, and flat out stupid drivers in the industry. Well, that's a recipe for absolute chaos. And that's exactly what it was. When we got to Florida, go win the Freedom 500 at the Freedom Factory with Cleetus McFarland. And by win, I mean probably pit maneuver everybody within the first lap.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
We literally pulled into the parking lot of the Freedom Factory right as the drivers' meeting was started.
Right, no, make a time. That's for you.
We made it. Freedom 500, here we come. Drivers' meeting was at 3 o'clock. It is currently, I think, like 3 o'clock. I got us here on time, in one piece, and we're at the Freedom Factory ready to party. And there is some serious talent here this weekend. I'm talking just a stacked field of monster drivers. So we had no time for practice, no time to get to know the cars. I need as much seat time as I can. Guys, I realize that this vlog is about us being down in Florida and racing cars, but I have something so important to tell you that I came all the way home to Utah, jumped on my four-wheeler, and now here I am. We need to talk about your credit score. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, it's affecting you in ways that you may not fully understand. And the problem is, the credit repair industry, all the companies that say they're gonna make your score better or get rid of the negative items, well, all they do is take your money and then they rarely deliver results. That's why the sponsor of this week's video is a company that I've done ads for in the past and will continue to do ads for because I believe in their product and their service. Credit MRI is a company that says, all right, we're gonna get to work on your credit. We're gonna remove the late payments, the bankruptcies, the divorces, the charge-offs, and you're not gonna pay them a dime until they deliver results. I have never seen a company like this before. And the company's owned by US military veterans. In fact, it's owned by guys just like you and I. In fact, one of them was at the Freedom 500 watching the race and sent me this clip that we're actually using in today's vlog. So guys, if you have bad credit, or if you even just have average or okay credit and you want to make it better, use Credit MRI. All you gotta do is click the link in the description below, and if you use the promo code SPARKS4, they're gonna remove your first negative item for free. Absolutely free. Guys, this is a company that I'm gonna continue to work with, I'm gonna continue to advertise for, and I'm gonna continue to promote and tell you about because they're good, honest, hardworking people just like you and I trust them. So if you need help with your credit, don't hesitate to reach out. Click the link below, and let's get those scores up, baby. Did you call us late? That's not late. That is 100% on time.
Right on time. What up, dude? What up, man?
What up, homie?
What up?
We were thrown right into the meeting, got to meet the other drivers, got to hear some of the rules. They have nitrous in all the cars, which, I gotta be honest with you, the drivers meeting was pretty basic. It was basically like, hey, go out there and have fun. There's a couple other little details and rules. Maybe I wasn't listening. Yeah, that's absolutely what I heard. Yeah. That's all I heard, actually. Just finished up the drivers meeting. Rules are pretty open. Floor and turn left. Already?
Yeah, I said he wasn't professional.
He's like, you got all these professionals, and then you got these guys don't know how to race.
Not right.
But he was right.
All right, you guys already know this guy right here. This guy's a legend, Mr. WhistlinDiesel. And this guy right here just pulled off one of the greatest stunts of all time, right here in Bradenton.
Yeah.
You drove your truck on the ocean.
Yeah, we went in the ocean with my monster truck, and everyone thought, actually, they thought it was driving on the bed.
On the bottom of the ocean.
They thought it was that lifted, but no.
You're just floating.
So I'm gonna have scuba divers under it next time. Nice. Look it up. As long as we don't touch the reef, we're gonna jail.
Yeah, don't touch the reef.
Go
That's
to jail.
jail time. That's 100% prison
Or
time.
manatee.
So basically, you were successful once, and so now he's doing it again with a much.
Well, no, not in Bradenton, though.
No, never. You learned your lesson.
No, I wouldn't
You wouldn't
come
do
back.
that.
I would never come back.
Ever. Bigger truck, more power, 2 engines.
It weighs like 10 times as much, too. So. Oh, and last time, the front end was starting to go down in because the current was so strong. So we got to make sure that we don't go under, because that would not.
You should be wearing scuba gear.
True.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we set the cruise control last time and just I hopped out and got on the roof and just let it go.
This is fantastic. So anyways,
They
Whistling
gotta
Diesel, you
come
guys already
next
know.
time. They gotta come.
We will be there. 100% going to be there. I don't care if it's midnight or 2 in the morning. I will be there.
I wish I would have said at the end of the video, because I was joking around, that I got arrested, but it was literally a $70 ticket.
That was it.
That's all I got.
Well, I guess my real question is, what's your plan for the race?
Well, so
You've done this once before. You got an upper hand.
Oh yeah.
100%. You're basically a veteran at this point.
Oh yeah. Your guys' cars are kind of hard to distinguish. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I could easily just pluck you off.
I actually might
right
just
away.
keep it that way.
That might be the best way to lay low from this guy.
That's true. I'm probably a bit of a. The red Toyota's dead on sight.
100%. Yeah, I think we all
If
agree
that
on
car wins, everyone's gonna go crazy.
No, he doesn't make it past the first lap.
No.
He's a target.
But what I didn't hear in there was any of the technicalities or any of the details of like, hey, if you crash, here's where you go. If you got to get back on the track, here's how you do it. Some of the stuff that, we're used to in different forms of racing. And that brings me to my next point. I have zero experience racing on an oval track. That's not true. I have a little experience racing on an oval track. I've raced a total of 2 times on an oval track setting like this with other vehicles, but it was in the Bandit Big Rig series in semi-trucks. In fact, that was one of the coolest things I've ever done, which is why I'm going to let you enjoy some of this footage. See, racing big rigs around a track, a little different than racing Crown Vics. The concept is the same. You go fast and you turn left. Well, my style of driving is more catered to stunt driving. I drive monster trucks, I drive off-road trucks, I drive trucks on 2 wheels, I drive razors, I drive trophy trucks, I fly helicopters, I fly airplanes, I operate heavy equipment. I pride myself on being able to drive or operate just about anything. But there's a big difference between being able to stunt drive and being able to drive a race car. So here is where things went a little bit sideways. This race was full of some very, very talented drivers, people who have a lot of experience in different racing formats. You've got guys like Travis Pastrana, Tanner Faust, Cleetus. Cleetus has a ton of time racing here on his own track. You have a lot of guys who have a lot of time racing cars on asphalt or pavement. And then you've got me and Diesel Dave, who this would be maybe our 2nd or 3rd time ever even touching an oval track. Long story short, we had 2 practice laps. And those 2 practice laps happened to also be our hot laps for qualifying. Here we go. It is time to do some qualifying in the Crown Vic Freedom 500. This is the thing you guys gotta understand. I am a dirt racing guy. I can drive anything, and I pride myself on being able to pretty much operate any sort of vehicle or machine in the world. Granted, I haven't had access to everything yet. I've got a lot of experience under my belt, so driving a Crown Vic on asphalt should be a no-brainer. However, it's not about just driving crazy. It's not about just being able to flip the car around, do donuts. It's about being able to keep the car alive. This is an endurance race, but you also have to be fast. So essentially what I've heard is you want to hear very little, hi Haley, she's gonna kick all of our right there. That's like not fair. It's like bringing a freaking gun to a knife fight. But anyway, so the plan is just to try to keep the car alive as long as possible. And if qualifying, we go out there, you do 1 warm-up lap, get familiar with the track, and then 2 hot laps. Just basically, that determines where you're gonna start. I actually kind of would rather start in the back because then I don't have a bunch of guys behind me trying to knock me out.
Like, don't fight the car up to the wall.
I think you have to do the addendum to the rules with him about the grass.
Yeah,
I
you'll
already
get the
have
bill.
grass in the back.
You'll get the bill for the grass if you take
Okay,
the
perfect.
grass out.
Okay.
So,
Now you know this time. You didn't know last time. Remember? Actually, let's go ahead and play the clip.
What the heck, dude? Are you not impressed? Some good mowing of the lawn I did.
So we got in the car, have never driven it before, got thrown on the track, and said hammer down and go as fast as you can so you can get a good lap time, so you can get a good position on the start of the race. Well, Diesel Dave and I went out, did our hot laps, did just fine, and we were super slow. You see, like I said, our style of driving is a little bit more aggressive. I'm used to drifting, sliding, jumping, that kind of stuff, but this is not that kind of race. In fact, this race, you want to drive as clean and as like non-drifting as you possibly can.
I think he thought it was a heat race and not timed qualifying.
He said, who won the other classes?
He said, who won the other classes? We're all the same class.
So I was so paranoid when I went out during my hot laps. I was trying not to slide the car. I didn't want to burn up my tires. I didn't know what the car was capable of. I didn't know what the tires were capable of. I didn't know what the track was going to do. There was a lot of unknowns. And 2 laps, well, that's just not enough time to get to know what the track and what the car are going to do. But that's all we had time for. So bam, we put in our 2 hot laps.
Way more fun than I thought, dude. Hell yeah. There's 20 of us out there. It's gonna be intense.
I didn't realize that was part of the acceptable behavior.
I don't know if I would consider it myself. Just a part of the.
Were you in that mess?
No, I stayed out of it.
Well, he was in the race.
We qualified near the back of the pack, which is probably a good thing because if we were at the front, it was just going to create a lot more chaos. So, come race time. Race car, check. Fire suit, check. Helmet, check. Gloves, check. Banana peels, check. I'm ready to go racing. Diesel Dave and I think I'm in like 17th position and he's in like 20th or something like that, or 18th. We're kind of like right by each other near the back of the pack. Guess what time it is?
Time to race.
Time to play Mario Kart in real life. It is time for the big race, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a very stacked field of drivers. Got guys like Tanner Faust, Travis Pastrana, Haley Deegan, WhistlinDiesel, like the list goes on and on and on and on. And then you got the Bash brothers at the back of the pack because we finished near the back of qualifying, but we did it intentionally.
Because we sandbag.
Because now what do we do?
Climb to the top.
Climb to the top. You threw your banana already.
Better watch out.
Buckle up. Bam. Flag drops. Cars start cruising around the track. Now, here's where things got interesting. As we went around the first couple of turns, Diesel Dave and I immediately started kind of working our way through the pack towards the front because obviously we wanted to be the leaders. Now, as we were doing that, you get a little bit of rubbing. You bump this car, you bump that car, and in one of the turns, I happened to go door to door and bonk Diesel Dave. Now, it wasn't an intentional hit, and it wasn't a hit that made him lose control. It didn't make me lose control. It didn't cause any damage to anybody. It was just a good, solid little bump. So we continue on around the track, minding our own business, and picking our way through the cars. And then all of a sudden, in one of the turns, when I was full throttle, somebody, bonk, hit the back of my car, and then continued to power through and pit maneuver me. That right there is when everything went wrong. At that moment, I spun out, and all I could see out of the corner of my eye was yellow. So I didn't know who hit me. I just saw a little bit of yellow. Didn't think much of it. All right. So I then am drifting sideways, being spun out into the middle of the Freedom Factory onto the concrete pad. Now, luckily, it was a wide open area, so I was able to keep the throttle wide open. And in an attempt to not have to stop and not get thrown into the concrete barriers, I just kept it pinned and tried to drift through it, which I was successful at doing until I hit the grass. So this was kind of like strike number 1 for me. I kept the throttle wide open as I drifted through a solid 6 or 7 feet of Cleetus's grass. Now, if you know Cleetus and you know the Freedom Factory, you know that this grass is literally sacred. In fact, Diesel Dave and I were just here a couple of months before doing a little bit of drifting, and Cleetus let us know just how sacred this grass really was. At this moment, I had to decide, wait a minute, I have no idea what the rules are for getting back on the track, because if we discussed this in the driver's meeting, which I don't think we did, well, then I wasn't listening. So I had a couple of options. I could either just kind of merge back on right there to the right and hope that nobody was going to hit me, although I wasn't going fast enough, or I could take the infield track around, build up a little bit of speed, and then kick myself back out on the other side of the track with a little bit more momentum so I wouldn't just merge into the race cars going too slow. And keep in mind, when you're driving a Crown Vic race car, you are buckled in so tight with your neck device that you don't have a lot of movement side to side, which means you can't really see what's going on. So I did my best, made a decision, and said, all right, I'm gonna keep it on the infield track for a minute, and then I'm gonna pop out on the other side, and I'm just gonna get back on the track as fast as I can and get back in this race because I didn't want to lose my laps. You know, I didn't want to be in the back. So as I was doing that, I wasn't paying attention to where all the other cars were in relation to me on the track. But if you watch the footage, and as all the spectators saw, and what I saw after the fact, watching the footage, it looks like I was intentionally waiting to go around the inside of the track, find the leaders of the race, and cut in front of them, which is exactly what I did but didn't know that I was doing. I actually thought I was joining the back of the pack. So bam, I'm back on the track. These cars are going really fast around me. I'm like, man, these guys at the back of the pack are really fast. And then I saw the yellow, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, yellow, that's the car that spun me out. Exchanging paint with the yellow car, not knowing whose it is because I wasn't paying attention to who was in what car. And as we came around a turn, the yellow car cut me off, and I thought, you know what, yellow car, you pit maneuvered me on the last turn, I'm gonna pit maneuver you here. And that's exactly what I did, which was really where I think everybody at the race decided to start hating me. That was the moment when, unbeknownst to me, I spun out Tanner Faust, who happened to be one of the race leaders. When this whole time, I thought I was at the back of the pack, bumping around with the guy who had spun me out in the previous lap. Well, guess what? It wasn't him. You want to know who spun me out? My best friend, Diesel Dave.
In the 2.4-hour race, he was saying, let those guys go there and use their stuff up with the skating.
I had no idea until after the race that when I got pit maneuvered, it was Diesel Dave paying me back for giving him a little bit of door bonk in the first couple of laps. I literally had no idea. Also, it was a little uncalled for. And Diesel Dave and I talked about that after the race, and he said, no, you hit me. I was like, yes, I hit you, but I didn't spin you out. You see, getting spun out and doing a pit maneuver is much different than bonking doors. So this whole time, I'm thinking that the yellow car was the one that spun me out, when really it was Tanner Faust, who happened to be one of the race leaders. And in spinning him out, I then lost control of my car, bounced off the wall, got launched into the infield, and right as I was getting launched across the track, what do you know? Old WhistlinDiesel, the crowd favorite, came hauling by, and I just wiped out the entire back of his car. Ripped the front of my bumper. In fact, there's a really cool shot. I'm going to show you this picture of, see that? That's me sideways across the racetrack, probably going 50, 60 miles an hour, and that's my bumper being ripped off because it just ripped off the back of WhistlinDiesel's car. Now, at this point, the crowd wasn't happy. The announcers weren't happy. Nobody was happy. And I was still just kind of confused. I didn't know what position I was in, who spun me out, what was going on. I just knew that I just wanted to get back on the track and drive as fast as I could.
Remember, double fall.
So they ran a few caution laps.
Looks like Heavy D is penalized. You go sit in the corner. You sit in the corner. You like time out. You need to try and like rub his face. You know?
And that's when one of the race officials stopped me, walked up to my car, and he said, "You're not that super happy right now." And I was like, "What? I'm not sure what you're talking about, sir." And he put me at the very back of the pack. And it's then that I started to put the puzzle together like, oh, wait a minute. I wasn't near the back. I took out one of the leaders, and people aren't happy about it. I could literally hear the crowd booing through my helmet through the race car. That's a loud crowd. Now, unfortunately, when I hit WhistlinDiesel, it took his car out of the race. However, my car just kept on trucking. After a couple of solid accidents, I got back on the track, and I got back in the race, and I was feeling pretty good until I got pulled out because I had a flat tire. From then on, we ran about 30, 40 laps. pushing really hard, being aggressive, but at the same time understanding that since my mistakes earlier on in the race had pretty much pissed off everybody else on the track and all the fans, I needed to drive a little bit more conservatively, which is exactly what I did until about lap 83 when I got tangled up in an accident that was already happening, not something that I instigated, not something that I caused. So when Hailie Deegan kind of got sideways, I got pinned against the wall. And bam, hit really hard. In fact, hit so hard that it bruised my entire collarbone and shoulder. And that was the final straw for my car. Number 801 was then wiped out, dunzo. 783 laps, not bad. Better than I thought I'd do. I felt that hit. Just came to a dead stop between the other cars and the wall. That was brutal. And if you look at some of the footage, in fact, we're gonna give you some pictures here. It was easily the most destroyed car on the track, but it was also the one that put up with the most abuse. So the fact that I made it 83 laps, I was pretty excited. Little did I know, you think the race is won like lap 30 or 40 because you got guys like Travis Pastrana or your Hailie Deegan and Tanner Faust out front. You're like, you're never gonna be able to pass these people. And then they have a mechanical issue. You're like, oh, I'm back in it. And then you're out of it. And then you're in it. And then you're out of it. So patience isn't my strong suit. But if I do come back and race this again, I'm gonna pace myself a little bit better and maybe try to like place rather than just wad my car up. But either way, about half the field didn't even finish the race. So literally all I would have had to do is just finish the race, and I probably would have placed top 10, which is what Diesel Dave ended up doing. Hey, 10th place, nice work.
Not too bad, not too shabby.
Got wild real quick. Lap number 2, I accidentally took out Tanner Faust. That was a big no-no because he was in like second place. Not intentional. I just kind of blacked out. I was on and off the track so much I didn't know what was going on. I had no communication. I went through like 3 tires, but they kept on putting me back out there. So I kept on getting back out.
That's where you're disappearing too?
Yeah, I kept on getting new tires.
I kept losing you.
Yeah, no,
and then my tires was like, damn, I was supposed to blow a tire?
I would get in a good rhythm and roll for like 10 solid laps, like with the fast ones, and then I'd blow a tire and go back out. My driving was aggressive, but I wasn't intentionally trying to ruin the race. In fact, I wasn't even intentionally trying to play bumper cars. The only time I intentionally got a little bit aggressive was when I thought I was retaliating against the car that had spun me out. So basically what I'm dealing with now at the end of this race is a bunch of drivers who are wondering what the hell happened out there, and a bunch of fans who are wondering why I was attempting to play bumper cars during the Freedom 500. You got Cleetus wondering why I was tearing up the grass at his track. Needless to say, I felt pretty bad. So I started sending out the apology text. In fact, let me show you the text that I sent to a couple of the people here. Bro, thank you so much. Sorry for creating so much chaos at the beginning there. Let me know what I owe you for the grass too. That was 7:51 the night of the race. So I immediately was offering to pay Cleetus for the grass that I destroyed, and I felt really bad because I know that's his pride and joy. And he said, haha, it's all good, thanks for coming. So Cleetus obviously wasn't as upset as I thought he was. Next morning I started watching some of the footage when I started realizing what had actually happened, and I saw that I wiped out Tanner Faust. So here's my text to Tanner. His response, all good brother, appreciate the text but haven't had a second thought about it. It was a hell of a show last night for sure. I'm not sure Garrett knew he was going to be riding off 20 cars. So Tanner, totally good with it. No issues. Then I thought, who else did I cause chaos with? Oh, WhistlinDiesel. Because I wiped him out, remember? Hey man, I want to say sorry for T-boning you last night. First time I've ever had to send that text. He said, dude, no problem at all. Laughy face, laughy face, laughy face, laughy face, laughy face. I wasn't mad. Everyone else lost their shit. I was just having fun. Seriously, nobody gave a shit. They were just making excuses for me. Long story short, I didn't go out there and play bumper cars and trying to root everybody's race and say, haha, yeah, I got you. That wasn't the plan. I was just a confused monster truck driver doing what I do best, which is bumping around and driving aggressively. So after talking with the drivers and a lot of different people after the event and realizing that nobody took it personally, I was feeling pretty good. But I noticed that the internet and the people who were at the race were still pretty pissed off. In fact, if you look at some of the posts about the Freedom 500, Most of them say Heavy D ruined the race. So again, I'm thinking, well, that's too bad. People paid to come to this race. They paid, for the pay-per-view. How can I make this right? So I put up an apology post trying to explain to people what happened. And I also am sending out hundreds of free t-shirts to people who say that I ruined the race for them. So guys, the bottom line is, yes, I'm an aggressive driver. Yes, I went out there and had a hell of a good time. But no, I wasn't intentionally trying to ruin the race, and I really wasn't even intentionally trying to play bumper cars. That's just kind of the way the cookie crumbled for me that night. However, looking back, there's a lot of things I could have done differently, but at the end of the day, this race was about entertainment. It wasn't a NASCAR race. 500 at the Freedom Factory. 500! Mr. Diesel Dave came in 10th place. I came in not welcome back. It wasn't a race that counted for points or a championship or money or anything like that. It was literally just a bunch of pro drivers and athletes going out there to try to put on a show and have a good time. Looking back, some of the antics that I was involved in and some of the other aggressive drivers out there were the most enjoyable and most entertaining part of the race. If you want to see a fast race with no spinouts and no carnage, Freedom 500 is not the race for you. So Diesel Dave, just so you know, I'm coming for you. I don't know when, and I don't know where, but it's gonna be when you least suspect it. I'm gonna pit maneuver your ass so hard to pay you back, because you, my friend, are the one who really ruined the Freedom 500. I'm just kidding, it was still me. But you started it. So guys, there you have it. The Freedom 500 ended up being a little bit different than all of us thought it was gonna be. But you know what? It ended up being a lot more exciting and a lot more entertaining than anybody thought it was gonna be as well. And that's the end of my story. So guys, now that you've heard my story and you understand that I was just a confused young lad out there looking to have a good time, not fully understanding where I was or what I was doing, maybe you'll have a little bit of compassion in your heart to forgive old Heavy D. But I did put on a show. You can't deny that. And if I end up going back down to the Freedom Factory for any more racing, well, first thing I'm gonna do is take a pallet of sod to make amends with Cleetus, who actually wasn't upset at all, surprisingly. He was totally cool with it. But I will tell you that if we end up racing back on that track again, I'm gonna continue to be an aggressive driver, but now I know what works and what doesn't work, and I'm gonna be just a little bit more careful to not ruin the race. So guys, buckle up, because this is just the beginning of our racing at the Freedom Factory.